"Take it easy, Alara," he whispered, his voice a low hum against the quiet dread. I should have pulled his hand away, shouldn't I? When his fingers, rough from work yet surprisingly gentle, brushed the sensitive skin of my inner thigh. But I didn't. My eyelids just fluttered shut. And then he said it, so softly I almost missed it. "I just don't want you to hurt anymore, Alara." Sounds innocent, doesn't it? Like care, like concern. But that one sentence, it was a key turning in a lock I'd forgotten existed, deep inside. From that single moment, the woman I thought I was began to unravel. If you've ever swallowed your truth, choked it down in the name of what's right versus what feels, stay with me. This isn't just about the shadows of guilt. It's about the raw, unspoken realities we cage within ourselves. And if this story resonates, if it stirs something you recognize, perhaps you'll consider subscribing. There's more I need to understand, more I need to say. They called it a miracle, you know. For years ago, a logging truck on a rain-slicked highway in coastal Maine. It found my passenger side, sent my small sedan spinning like a forgotten toy. I woke up 3 weeks later in a haze of antiseptic and morphine, my legs a latticework of steel, my hips bolted together. Pain became my most intimate companion. The surgeons blessed their skilled hands, said it could have been worse. "You're fortunate, Alara," they'd intone. Fortunate. When your limbs are unresponsive, when you need another strength simply to shift in bed, fortunate tastes like ash. I hadn't just lost mobility, I'd lost Alara. The vibrant, independent woman who ran the Oak Haven Community Library, who hiked the cliff trails on Sundays. She was gone. Mornings bled into one another, shrouded in a silence that amplified the foreignness of my own body. The face in the mirror? A stranger stared back, her eyes reflecting a geography of suffering I didn't recognize. I became a cautionary tale, whispered about in the aisles of the local market. Such a shame. She used to be so full of life. No one deserves that kind of erasure. Then he came home from that seasonal job up north. Reese, taller than I remembered, broader. The boyish softness had given way to a young man's defined lines, a quiet power in his stance. He moved through our salt-worn, clapboard house with an understated confidence that filled the spaces my absence had created. His voice, now a deeper timbre, hands steady as he lifted me from the confinement of my chair, with an ease that belied my dead weight, and somewhere, amidst the fog of painkillers and the chill of linen sheets, something else began to stir. Not just cared for, but seen. Moved. Understood. I didn't want it. I swear, I never saw it coming. Sometimes healing finds you in the most unexpected, the most complicated of shelters. He was just 6 when I signed the papers. Temporary foster placement, they'd called it, for young Reese. Just until his family could sort themselves out. But months melted into years, and by the time he was 8, no one ever came. I was barely 25 myself. I fed him, bathed him, made bedtime stories burst with life. He called me Mom, long before I felt the weight of that title settle comfortably on my shoulders. Eventually, it felt like ours. A real family. I'm 46 now, he's 27. Life has a cruel way of flipping scripts you thought were immutable. The accident stole my job, my ability to drive, even the simple dignity of navigating the stairs in our own home. My body betrayed me in the most intimate ways. Washing my hair, dressing, the bathroom, the humiliation of it chips away at your soul. Reese stepped back into that void without a flicker of hesitation. "Just until you're stronger, Mom," he'd said. But the unspoken truth hung heavy between us. Stronger was a destination I might never reach again. Our Oak Haven house, perched at the end of a windswept, shadowed lane, rarely basked in the thin winter sunlight. The old heater ticked and groaned, a relentless rhythm against the steamed-up windows. Most days, the sky was the color of dishwater. On nights when the nor'easter howled, the house seemed to keen, a lonely sound that echoed the ache in my bones. Just the two of us. There we were. He did everything. Groceries, cooking meals that filled the house with aromas I'd almost forgotten, transferring me from bed to bath, his strength a gentle cradle. He'd tell bad jokes to make me laugh, remind me about medications. Never once did he make me feel like a burden. But that didn't stop the feeling from coiling inside me. A cold serpent of guilt. A peculiar loneliness settles in when your body is no longer your ally, but your prison. The world, it seems, has a way of quietly erasing you when you're no longer useful. I, who had once been so visible, so capable. Now, I barely recognized my own reflection. It started, as these things often do, like any other evening. Curled on the sofa, my legs throbbing with a relentless, deep-seated ache, the coastal lie, chill seeping into my very marrow. Reese knelt beside me. He gently rolled up the legs of my sweatpants, his warm, slightly rough hands pressing against my cool skin. "Hurting again?" he asked softly, his thumbs already working into the taut, aching muscles of my calves. I nodded, fighting the urge to focus too intently on the way his fingers moved, firm, knowing, yet tender. His touch, it always brought a relief the pills couldn't offer. But this time was different. His thumb traced a line higher. Just an inch. Perhaps less. But that inch? It shifted the very axis of my world. The pad of his thumb brushed the soft, vulnerable crease where thigh meets hip, a place where physical pain and a deeper hidden shame seemed to reside. My breath hitched. I felt his falter too. We froze, the silence in the room suddenly charged, the air thick with unspoken electricity, as if the old walls themselves held their breath. "Sorry," he whispered, his hand recoiling as if burned, though the heat of his touch still seared my skin like a brand. "No," I blurted, too quick, too breathless. It's fine." His gaze, dark and unreadable, flickered up to meet mine. Searching, questioning, he gave a curt nod, then carefully, deliberately, pulled my pant leg down, his fingers a fleeting, tantalizing warmth against my calf. "You're all right," he murmured. It wasn't a question. I offered a slight nod. I was far from all right. A change had been loosed in the quiet rooms of our house. Palpable. Irrevocable. The silence returned, but it was a different beast now. Heavier, more freighted with meaning. I felt it on my skin, a prickling awareness in the hollow of my chest, where his thumb had dared to stray. For the first time in years, I found myself thinking not of what I had lost, but of what I might still desire. That night, everything shifted. His care continued, gentle, meticulous. But now my skin remembered. Every brush of his hand, every incidental contact, lingered in my thoughts, a slow burn. I started noticing things, small things I'd been blind to before. The determined set of his jaw when he concentrated, the way his eyes, often serious, would soften almost imperceptibly when they rested on me. He looked at me, and it was a look that extended beyond the duties of a caregiver. There were moments, too, when he thought I wasn't watching. One morning, helping me from bed, his arms a familiar, steady support around my back. As I leaned into him, his hand brushed mine. Just a touch. We both stilled. A heartbeat. 2. Then it was gone. His fingers tensed, then relaxed against mine for a split second. My own heart hammered against my ribs. We never spoke of it. We never spoke of any of it. I'd lie awake, my legs aching, a deeper throb that felt rooted in my soul, staring at the shadowed ceiling, listening to the house breathe around us. One night, the door creaked. "Your light was on," Reese murmured. A silhouette in the doorway, his, hair tousled, eyes heavy with sleep. "Can't sleep," I whispered back. He moved into the room, uninvited but not unwelcome, and sat on the edge of my bed. "Want me to stay until you do?" I nodded. He leaned back against the headboard, his long legs stretching out beside mine. I turned onto my side, my gaze drawn to him. His eyelids flickered, then settled. His breathing deepened, even and calm. Soon he was asleep, a warm, solid presence beside me. I never meant to touch him. My hand seemed to move of its own accord, reaching out, brushing the dark hair from his forehead, tracing the line of his temple, fingers hesitating at the vulnerable nape of his neck where the skin was soft. I inhaled sharply, quietly. For a moment, time itself seemed to suspend. I told myself it was nothing. A tired gesture, a mother comforting her child. The lie felt thinner with each repetition. He never mentioned it, never questioned the phantom. Touch in his sleep. But I saw the shift in his gaze in the days that followed. Softer, more lingering, as if observing something fragile he feared might break. And God help me. Something within me was breaking. Every touch, intended or not, pulling, a blanket higher, a hand steadying me from the bath, brushing a stray strand of hair from my face. I felt it, a current. A slow, dangerous thaw in a landscape I'd thought permanently frozen. My body, it seemed, had forgotten the difference between tenderness and a hunger I dared not name. I knew it was wrong. The thought was a constant, dull ache beneath the surface. My eyes would follow the line of his forearms when he lifted something heavy, the way his shirt clung to his back when he came in from the biting Maine wind, the rare, full smile that could steal my breath. Reason moved at a glacial pace, while sensation was a wildfire. We kept the silence, mostly, but the spaces between words grew longer, charged. He'd reach for a coffee cup and my hand would already be there. Fingers would brush, linger for a fraction of a second too long. The air in the kitchen after dinner would grow heavy, suffocating. We navigated around this unspoken thing as if it weren't already consuming the oxygen in the room. I'd try for normalcy, fold laundry, comment on the relentless coastal weather. Ask about his day. It felt like performing in a play written by someone else. I wanted it to stop. I had no idea how. And a part of me, a part buried deep beneath years of silence and sacrifice, didn't want it to stop at all. It happened on a Thursday, curled on the sofa, a thick quilt over my legs, watching the relentless rain lash against the windows. Reese came in from his shift at the boatyard, soaked through, his dark t-shirt clinging to his chest, hair plastered to his forehead. His hands were chapped and red from the cold. "You okay?" he asked, his voice rough as he kicked off, his boots by the door. "Just cold," I managed, my voice barely a whisper. He disappeared for a moment, returned with a dry towel, gently draping it over my shoulders, before settling beside me on the sofa. Closer than usual. No words. Just the metronomic tick of the old grandfather clock in the hall and the drip of water from his sleeves onto the worn wooden floor. His hand slipped under the quilt. Found mine. Our fingers interlaced, hesitantly. Then, with certainty. "You're trembling," he murmured, his thumbs stroking my knuckles. "It's nothing. You've been quiet lately." I turned my head. He was already watching me, and in his eyes, I saw not a son, not a caregiver. I saw a man. "If this is wrong," he whispered, his voice husky, "just tell me to stop." "Alara." My lips parted, but no sound emerged. I leaned in a slow, inevitable drift before my conscious mind could raise an alarm. And then he kissed me, not gently, not with tentative care. It was a storm breaking, a desperate collision. His hands cupped my face, his thumbs tracing my cheekbones. My fingers clenched his damp shirt. The sheer, undeniable heat of him, the taste of rain and something uniquely Reese, a chaotic symphony of ragged breaths and thundering heartbeats. I should have stopped it. I should have pulled away. But I didn't. I kissed him back. And it felt like coming home to a place I'd never known I was missing. In that kiss, there was no pain, no wheelchair, no sterile scent of a hospital. Only this raw, terrifying, exhilarating connection. And the truth, stark and stunning, hit me. I wasn't numb anymore. Afterwards, silence. At first, only our breathing, harsh and uneven, filled the room. Our foreheads touched. I clung to his shirt, terrified that letting go would unravel the fragile reality we'd just woven. He pulled back slightly, his dark eyes searching mine. "Alara," he began, his voice low. "You know, you're not my real mother." I blinked. My stomach plummeted. "I've always known, Reese." "No one ever said it," he continued, as if sensing my unspoken panic. "But I figured it out. Years ago. You never said anything. You never needed me to." My mouth opened, then closed. "It doesn't change anything," he said, his gaze intense. "Not for me." This wasn't confusion, Alara, or loneliness. He took a breath, his fingers lightly tracing my cheek. "I kissed you because I think I've loved you my whole life. Not as a mother, but as the only person who ever truly saw me, the one who saved me." My throat tightened. I'd always known, of course, on some level, that he wasn't of my blood. But hearing him say it so calmly, so clearly, shifted something fundamental within me. It was as if the floor beneath us had subtly tilted. I was still his mother in the eyes of the world, in the narrative of our lives. But the bloodlines, those invisible walls, suddenly seemed porous, like doors. I should have felt relief, liberation. Instead, a heavier, more complex guilt settled in. Love, even when desperately sought, so often arrives tangled with shame. "What does this make us?" I finally whispered, the words barely audible above the sound of the rain. "It makes us real," he answered, his voice firm. Maybe he was right. But real didn't feel simpler. It felt impossibly complex, a truth too stark to ignore. It wasn't in a bedroom. It happened in the living room, on that same worn sofa where I spent most of my days. The place I'd painstakingly learned to take a few aided steps. The place I'd wept into the cushions, believing no one heard. He'd just finished clearing away the dinner things. I was feigning reading, wrapped in my quilt. The air between us had crackled all evening, thick with unspoken words. He sat beside me. Our knees brushed, we both stilled. He turned to me slowly. Our hands found each other, a tentative touch, our eyes locked. And I saw it. Not just need, but desire. Undiluted. Reflected back at me. His lips were on mine before I could draw a breath. This time there was no hesitation. No slow build, only a raw, urgent claiming. After years of muted existence, the truest sound was his breath mingling with mine. I clung to his shoulders, pulling him closer. His body, warm, solid, undeniably present. There were no words. Our bodies spoke the truths our mouths had held captive for so long. When it was over, he didn't pull away, didn't offer explanations or apologies. He simply lay beside me, our fingers still entwined. His chest rising and falling in sync with mine. I stared at the ceiling, breathless. And for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I felt whole, seen, desired, vital. In that quiet aftermath, guilt was a distant echo, drowned out by a deep, resonant hum beneath my skin, a warmth that promised to linger. The next morning, I couldn't meet his eyes. I moved through the kitchen with a brittle, forced efficiency. Set the table, poured coffee, chattered about the weather. A desperate pantomime of normalcy. My hand trembled as I passed him the butter. "Thanks," he said as I took the toast he offered. "That's the third time you've thanked me for the butter." "Alara," he observed, his voice quiet. I forced a smile. Just feeling grateful. He watched me, his eyes a mystery I couldn't decipher. "Do you regret it?" he asked finally. The knife froze above my toast. "I don't know," I admitted. The truth, a painful whisper. I wish I didn't need it so much." He nodded slowly. "So it wasn't a mistake?" A beat of silence. "No." I owned it. He leaned forward, his voice firm. "Last night, there was no shame in it for me, Alara." My throat constricted. "There will be," I said, the words tasting like defeat. "One day." "No," he stated, his certainty a shield. "Never. But you'll feel it. From the world. That's the real pain." I finally looked up, met his gaze, and in his eyes, I saw it all. Defiance, a fierce tenderness, fear, and an unyielding resolve. It shattered something brittle within me. "Again. What does this mean for us, Reese?" "It means we're real, Alara," he repeated. Perhaps, I thought, a little too real for this world. At the grocery store, people still call me courageous. "What a strong woman," they'll say. "So devoted. That young man of yours, Reese, he's lucky to have you." I smile, I nod, I thank them. And then, I go home. Home to the young man who is no longer just a boy. Not mine by blood. Not mine in any way the world would readily understand. We make dinner together. We fold laundry. We water the plants. We live a quiet life, tucked away behind drawn curtains and polite smiles. But in the spaces between, the fleeting glances across the dinner table, the way our hands sometimes brush when reaching for the same thing, there's something more. Something potent, something we both carefully avoid naming. Everyone in Oakhaven thinks they know our story. The devoted foster mother, the grateful son. They see the commitment. They see the sacrifice. They don't see the nights, the quiet intensity. The fire we've banked beneath layers of duty and denial. But we know. And maybe, just maybe, that's all that matters. When he takes my hand as we walk to the car, his grip firm, reassuring. It's a silent acknowledgement. I'm not alone. What we share, in all its impossible complexity, is ours. "Need anything else from town?" he asks, his voice normal, casual, as we prepare to leave. "No," I whisper, my fingers tightening around his. "I have everything I need." If this story, this exploration of the spaces between, ignited something within you, don't shy away from it. If it made you question, even for a moment, the neat boxes we place around love and connection, then subscribe. There are more stories, more secrets waiting for the courage to be told.